Of course, the first thing you need to do is to decide what pages you want to reference. Think about it. In a website, is it necessary to have all the pages referenced by the search engine? Are some of the pages just explanation for the customer that you don't need to be referenced? Are some things internal management? Are something and so on and so forth? So you first need to decide what pages you want to reference. Most of the time you do not need all of them to be referenced. In fact, very often you don't want some of them to be referenced, and the first thing to do, of course, is to do a checklist. In some cases, the first page may be enough. Why? Well, because the content of your website is not that important for the search engine. What you want is for the potential customer to find the website. So if on the first page you have all your keywords, all your information, everything that is needed, and you appear in a good position in the search engine, then your customer will arrive there, and after that they can do whatever they want on the website. Now, if what you want is to have, of course, the content of a whole database to be available directly, because you don't know if they're going to be attracted by this, by that, by the other, product by product in particular, then clearly that's not the right approach. But very often it's a mix of a few pages, or sometimes nearly all of them. It's really up to each cases. Now, your URL should contain your main keyword. Windev.com is a very good URL for Windev, clearly. My Windev, your Windev, their Windev is a very good also keyword for that. Now, I'm pretty sure that PCSoft will object if you use an URL like that. So you want really to have your main keyword in it as much as you can. If not on in the main part of the URL, in the domain name, then at least in the page name afterwards. It can be with a dash or with an underscore to separate words, no problem. By example, fabriceharary.com/windev_videocourses.html, which is not a valid URL today. If you do that, you will not get anywhere. It's the old website. Here you had the Windev keyword inside the URL of the page. And here we're talking about each page separately. Of course, if somebody is looking for Fabrice Harary, the fact that I have Fabrice Harary in my main domain information, then clearly this is going to rank much higher. But I don't expect people to look for me with my name. What I want is for people who don't know me to find me. Therefore, it's more important for me to work on the keyword like Windev and consulting. So you have for each page to consider the keywords that are important. And that's a job that is not only for the website, but page by page. Some pages may have some very different keywords than the other of your website, because you want them. Clearly, if you're selling lots of different things on your website, you don't want people looking for piano arriving on the hammer page. You want people who look for hammers going to the hammer page. So clearly the keyword should be different for each page. Now, something else that you're going to need to modify is what is called the meta tags. That is something that is not visible to the end user of your website. It's inside the header of your page in the source, and this is information that you should always fill correctly. currently the current thinking is to say that search engine are not considering this content as much as they were considering it before. Why? Because it's hidden. The end user cannot see it. Well, it's true and it's not true at the same time, because the search engine may not consider that as much as before, but I'm pretty sure that they are still comparing that with the content of your website. And if there is a discrepancy between the two, then your score is going down. That I am pretty sure. So what are the meta tags? Well, first is the title of the page. Be careful that it has a correct size. You cannot put a title that is 5,000 characters long, so there's a limit. Be also careful that if you put some of your keywords in the title, and they should be at the beginning of your title. So a story about consulting is not a good title for a page for me. Consulting, the whole story, is a much better title. Okay, so after that you have the description of your page. So that's another text a little longer than the title, and it should contain also your main keywords, and talk about all the things that you want, but your main keywords should be in it. Then you have the robot meta tag. The robot meta tag is there is the keywords meta tag first. Of course, you should put in there all your keywords with the first important one before, at the beginning. After that you have the robot meta tag, and it should contain all. That's because you want all the spiders, all the robots, all the crawlers, however you want to call them, which basically are the softwares from the search engine. You want them to index the page. So on each page that you want to index, you need to tell the robot, yes, please index me, and that's how you do it. Then you have the headings. Okay, so that is now going into HTML code. When HTML was designed, it was designed in a way like basically word processing. So you would have inside the HTML coding all the information about bold, the size of font, and so forth and so on. And one thing that they introduced are headings and subheadings. So the header of the page has a tag called H1, the subtitle a tag called H2, and so on and so forth. And the headings are standard HTML emphasis, which means that by default H1 means that the character will be this size or that size, and so on and so forth. In the last version of WebDev, we can now have headings, H1 tags, without having the standard HTML emphasis. We can choose which emphasis to give to the code itself. Of course, you should put your main keywords in H1 headings. But you cannot have the whole pages in H1 headings. It's supposed to put emphasis on something. You cannot just do everything in H1. Then something extremely important that you will be modifying in your page is the alt attributes. What are the alt attributes? Well, originally they were designed to allow people who were not able to see the images to know what the images were and what they were for. So why were they not able to see the images? But there were two reasons. First, some people just can't see, and that's very unfortunate, but it's still true today. And second, also remember that when the internet started, it was extremely slow. So displaying images on pages was not something that everybody could afford just because of the time that it needed to do it. So some browsers were text only, and there are still some browsers that are text only today. I think it's called Links. So some browsers were text only, and some browsers had the option not to get the images and not to display the images. So with the alternate text, you would know what the image was. So you need to add an alternate text to all images. It's extremely important. You need this alternate text to include your keywords. And the alternate text may not be the image description. You can put here the image description. By example, you can say, oh, this is a Earth globe turning on itself, okay? Or you can just say, for the menu, click here. Which one is the most important and which one is the most relevant? Well, it's not always the direct image description. Don't leave yet, there's more. The links are extremely important. The links are what make the junction between different pages of your website. So you should pay a lot of attention to your links. Your links should include your keywords. By example, a link like this one, WebDev files, is good because it links to a page which may or may not be called WebDev page. That would be good if it was called WebDev files, absolutely. But the link, the text, the visible text of the link itself contains the keyword WebDev. So that is good. Now, if instead of that I had for WebDev files, click here, that would be a link to the same page, which may have the same name with WebDev in it, but the link itself is much less relevant. Second point, you should add links to parts of your page. What do I mean by that? Well, it's well and good to have a menu, and in the menu to a link to all the pages of your website. But that makes only one link to each page. Now, if inside your text itself you reference other pages of your website and you have direct links from inside your text to other pages of your website, you are increasing the number of relevant links to your web page, and you are increasing your score. Of course, once again, you shouldn't have your whole text as a big link. It's not working like that. Now, what about the content of your website? The text that is displayed on your page. That is, curiously, something that lots of people forget. Your content should contain your keywords. That seems like something absolutely clear, evident, absolute. Your keyword should be in your text. You have no idea the number of times you have text talking about anything and everything but the keywords that people want them to be found with. So your keyword should be in the text, and not only that, your keyword should be in bold. You have to put emphasis on what you're doing, on what you want people to find you for. So your keyword should be in bold because the search engine are going to look at that. Now, once again, if you put your whole text in bold, you're missing the point. Sitemap, what is that? Well, the sitemap is a text file that is available in the higher level, in the root directory of your website. And this sitemap should contain information to help the search engine find your pages. You have your links inside your own website to find the pages, but you should also have a sitemap containing information about each page to index. This sitemap contains, of course, the URLs of each of your pages, the one that you want indexed, but also for each page some metadata, the last update of your page, so that the search engine knows that it has to re-index the page. The changes frequency, that's something that you tell the search engine in order to tell it, okay, come back in 2 weeks, or come back tomorrow, because this page is changing all the time. Okay, that's extremely important, because if you don't tell the search engine that your page is changing all the time, maybe it will reindex the content only in 2 weeks. And in that case, during that time, all your information that was available in your blog that you're updating 3 times a day will not be found by the search engine and by the user of the search engine. So this is extremely important. And of course, there is also a flag for the importance of the page. You want to tell, and to be honest, of course, with the search engine, and to tell them which pages are very important in your website, so that they look at them more closely. Clearly, you could say whatever you want in these files, but again, don't think that the people who are writing the algorithm for the search engine are morons. If you misrepresent information, there is a very good chance that they will find about it, and if they do, your ranking is going to sink like crazy. So the sitemap is in addition to your links, not instead of the link, not standalone. Just the sitemap will not do the trick. You need to have both. Now there is a second text file called robots.txt. On addition to the meta tag robot, you also have this file, and in that you tell the robots what to index, what not to index, and you can tell that robot by robot, so it's a lot of things. Of course, nothing tells you that the robot in question is going to obey what you tell him to do in that file. It is something that you want it to do this way. Maybe it will, maybe it will not. It depends on the robot, and you have no way of knowing. Remember that in this you will want to tell the robot not to index your internal pages, user registration, site administration, and so on and so forth. Now, there are two ways of thinking about that problem. Either you want to put that information in the robot and hope that the robot will not look at those pages, or you want to, as much as possible, make sure that these pages are completely invisible technically, that the search engine will not be able to get to them. And for that, well, WebDev classic mode is a very good idea. So telling a robot there is a page there but don't look at it, for me it's always been something that I find a little, well, so-so. Now remember that each search engine works differently. When we're talking search engine, we are thinking, of course, Google, Bing, maybe Yahoo, but Yahoo is using the Bing engine, so it's basically 2 search engines. But remember, there are tons of other search engines out there, maybe way less important in terms of volume, but you never know which one your future customer is going to use. So remember that each search engine works differently, and that each modification that you are doing in your page can be ignored by some of those search engines, while it's extremely important for another one. So you should not neglect any of this modification in order to be as sure as you can be that the search engine are going to find your pages and index them correctly. Now, there are many things that you can do when you're modifying your web page for search engine optimization that you shouldn't do. Things that are going to have the inverse effect that what you want. So, the first thing is don't overdo it. What does that mean? Well, I was telling you before, don't put your whole text in bold. It's going to have the exact effect opposite of the one you want. The bold is to emphasize something. You cannot emphasize all of it, and the search engine tools are pretty smart about it. Don't create code just for the search engine. How is that even possible? Well, on your website there is a way to know which browser is using your pages. So you can give different content to each browser. When the request arrives, if it's Firefox, you send it that. If it's Internet Explorer, you send it that. And of course, the search engine robots, their crawler, are giving you their own name. They are telling you, I'm a search engine robot, and I'm this one. So you have Googlebot, you have and so on and so forth. So you can, and it's perfectly possible, to send one page to the search engine and a completely different page content with the same URL if it's Firefox or Internet Explorer. It is perfectly doable. Don't do it. Don't do it, because at some point the search engine is going to realize that you're doing that, and in that case you're going to really cry. In general, don't be deceptive. Yes, you want to have a good ranking, but you have to have a ranking with means that are logical. The same way that the IRS is going to fall after you like a ton of brick if their software finds that you fall outside some parameters. The search engine are doing to do the exact same thing. They are going to check if what you're doing makes sense. If not, if you're being deceptive, then you're going to sink in the ranking. By example, do not duplicate content. It's not because I put the sentence, I am the best WebDev consultant in the world, and then I repeat it 200 times on the page, that I'm going to be better in the rank of the search engine. On the contrary. Don't do keyword stuffing. I told you that you should put your keyword pretty much everywhere. Yes, but not 200 times for each. There is a limit, and that's why also you need to use search engine optimization tools. They will tell you if you are putting too many of a keyword in a page. If that's the case, you remove some of them. Just because too much of a good thing may be a bad thing. Do not use hidden links. Once again, it's very important for the search engine that what they read and what the user see are the same thing as much as possible. So what is a hidden link? A hidden link would be a link to a page where there is only, by example, one character in the link, and it's a hyphen between two words. Nobody is going to see that this is a link, and nobody is going to be able to click on it. So it's a link that is going to be found by the search engine and read, but that nobody will ever be able to click on. So that is something that they will understand. They will see that there's only one character in the link, so they will see that. The exact same way, if you put some white text on a white background, the search engine will realize that. If you put a link on an image and the image is only 1 pixel wide, the search engine will realize that. Also, don't use frames. Don't use iframes. Those are things that make it more difficult for the search engine to read your pages. Don't use redirects. The redirects are a way of hiding the real URL, so you can put some fancy stuff that you want index and you're going somewhere else. Don't do that. There is a set of guidelines given by every search engine, basically every major search engine, and this is the link for an entry point in the Google Webmaster guidelines. It's one of the answer, and from there you get to everything else. Now remember that if you overdo it, if you don't optimize your site for search engines, you may be only on the 4th page of the ranking. But if you overdo it, if you're deceptive, if you're using all of these forbidden techniques, your site may be removed entirely for the ranking. Entirely and definitely. They will not index you again. So be careful, do the things the right way, don't overdo it. It's the only thing I can tell you at that level. At this point, your site is absolutely perfect. You follow all the guidelines, you have all your keywords at the right place, all the alt tags, all the files, everything is perfect. Well, you've just done half the job. That was the job of the website developer, and now is the public relation job starting. So that's what creating links to your site means. You need to be able to have as many external links as possible pointing toward your site. So how do you do that? Well, the first thing clearly is to submit your URLs, and you can see that there is an S because you want to submit all the URLs you want referenced to the major search engines and directory. Now, the major ones find them by themselves, and some of them just don't want to be bothered with your submissions. It's possible, it arrives. How do they do that? How do they know that there are new pages to be referenced? Well, clearly when you create a website, you buy a domain name. And when you do that, you register that domain name on a DNS server. And the major search engines are just watching the DNS changes because they have their own DNS servers. Of course, Google has its own set of DNS server, which means that all the DNS changes are submitted to it automatically by the other servers. That's the way they work. Each time something changes on their database, they are sending the change to the other DNS server. It's called propagating the information, and that's why when you're changing something in your DNS, it can take up to 24 hours for your search engine, your preferred search engine, to know that something has changed, because maybe it didn't get the message yet. So the major search engine find them by themselves. In fact, I saw very recently, when I was making all the changes on my servers, that I had a big hit from search engine 24 to 48 hours after any DNS change. It was really significant in terms of statistic. Because yes, of course, you can see in the statistic of your website, if you activate them and you read them, you will see which part of the hits on your website are from search engine, from robots. It's clearly different. You can see really what's going on. Now, in any case, you want to submit your pages to the search engine, and that means that when you submit them, it's going to be faster than not. So the major search engines have their own DNS server, so they know when something has been created. The other ones don't, which means that if you don't tell them, look at me, I'm a new website, well, they will know about it once they index the page of somebody else who is talking about you, which of course can take some time. The same way, when you submit them to the search engine, you can tell the search engine, look at all the pages that I have, this one, this one, this one, this one. So your website is going to be scanned more deeply if you submitted it according to the search engine rules. Each search engine has its own set of rules to source submission, which is why also some search engine prefer that you submit the pages, while some search engine don't want them and find them by themselves. Now, that is not the kind of work that you want to do by hand at all, in any case. There are just too many search engine and directory. There is too much information to enter for each, and it is each time in a different format. Name of the owner, URL, description, text this, text that, in this. You just don't want to do that. That is another time where you want to use a good search engine optimization tool, a good software, a good website who is able to submit to as many search engines as possible, as fast as possible, and the best way possible too. You also want to submit to major directories like Yahoo and Goga, etc. So here, be careful, there are strict guidelines with categories. You cannot submit a website anywhere. It has to be in a subcategory that is the category of the... So it's quite complex, and once again, you want to not do that by hand if you can. But if you pay, do it by hand. There are some major directory who are going to make you pay if you do it yourself. So be careful. Now, one thing that you can do is by advertising, pay per click. Now, you can do that with Google, you can do that with Bing, and so on. And that means that your result will appear on the relevant page. Of course, if somebody is searching for WebDev consulting, they will see me if I pay for the keywords WebDev consulting. And if something is looking for a piano, my ad is not going to appear. But be careful, because your page is going to appear as an advertisement, a paid result, not as a result from the search engine. And that may be good or bad. It may be good because it say, okay, look, I'm a professional, I'm paying for publicity and all that. Or it may be bad because it says, well, I'm not able to be on the first page by myself, so I'm paying to be here. So depending on what you're selling, if you're selling piano and you're not on the first page, okay, that's not your job. If you are selling search engine optimization and you're not on the first page, then you have to, if you have to pay for advertising to be on the first page, then maybe you're not the person I'm going to look at for this kind of work. So be careful, there is tricks at that level. Now, another thing that you can use to create an external link to your site is to reference your products, to submit your products to other sites who are selling the same kind of products. By example, Google product at the time where it still existed, eBay, things like that. You can, in fact, open a boutique on other website where you're going to sell also directly, but where you're going to have links to your own website, and that is going to increase your ranking. Now, another thing that you can do, and that is something that is completely outside of the realm of pure technique, you can do a press release campaign. What is that? First, what is a press release? A press release is a text, an information, a letter if you want, that you send to a journalist. You send that to a journalist or to a publication in general, and you tell them, this is a press release, this is for immediate release in the press, that's what it means. and that's a new information. And the press release text will say something like, there's a new website in town, and if you want to do this or that, then it's the place to be. And this is, of course, the URL. If you don't give the URL in your press release, you're kind of not doing the right thing. So what is happening at that time? Well, clearly you're just sending what you could be considered spam, but you're sending it in a specific format to people who are used to receive this kind of thing, so it's okay. Well, first, it's not expensive at all. Second, if the people on the other side relay that information to their own customer, people who are reading their blog, people who are reading their magazines, this kind of people, then it's completely free advertisement, and that's great. Of course, it has to be well targeted, which means that if you send information about a website selling piano to magazines that are focused on raising poultry, I don't think that you're going to be published in these magazines. So it has to be well targeted. And of course, you have to realize that there is absolutely no insurance that the people who are receiving your article are going to publish it. There are rules on how to write a press release. It has to be a certain size, maximum size. It has to be well written. You do not want them to have to rewrite your press release. You want them to just have to do a copy and paste, because press release is also a very good way for journalists to fill a few holes in their pages, to just put a little stuff where there was a little white square that they didn't know what to put in. So if they can just copy and paste and be done with it and solve a problem on their side, you have much more chances to be published. So your press release should be well written, should be in perfectly clear English, should be read 23 times before you send it, because you don't want mistake in it, and it should be something that is going to make the end user want to come on your website. If you do all that, it's not expensive. You can do it yourself, but it's something that you can do yourself, of course, but it's really a question of doing it the right way. So you may want to pay a little bit professional people who are doing that all the time and who know how to do it.